Welcome back to part 2 of our range management video. The maximum height that pop holes should be at is 50 cm above ground level. If the pop hole is higher than 45 cm from ground level from either the entry or exit side, then a ramp should be installed to promote easy access to and from the house and the range. Pop holes should be able to open at least 35 cm from the bottom of the pop hole to the tip of the pop hole cover, all the way up to fully open so that the birds have an unrestricted view and route out of the hen house and back.
We've used stock board, a motorised mechanism that just opens so it's all automatic. Some sheds you can have it manual. Automatic's good because we can computerise it. Makes it a bit easier, so the potholes open automatically in the morning at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And it's just a flick of the switch if the weather is really poor and you have to keep them in that day. You have to have so many potholes. We range on both sides of the shed, so we've got 56 potholes in total. Each are 2 metres wide. I think if you are going to range only on one side, which some sheds do, you have to have the full length of the shed as the pop hole. So again, designs can fluctuate. We like this design because both sides allow us, especially in the winter months, to rotate each side of the shed. They can be out this side one week and then out the back the next week, and that allows us to recover, whereas in the summer you don't need that recovery because grass just keeps growing. So you don't need the rotation. It works well for us, we like it. We've not had any problems with it in 8 years, so we're probably planning to do any future sheds the same way as this, but pothole design can alter depending on your builder. The reason you have so many and you have them spaced internally, the shed is split into sections just to stop any risk of smothering, and it keeps the birds spaced out. You don't want just one pothole per pen where they're all becoming like a bottleneck. You just want spaced out potholes in each pen to encourage the birds out. They're not all trying to go out to one area. It also reduces the traffic risk internally for when the birds come back in. If it is raining, wet feet, that can become a capped area and then you have a litter problem after that.
Pop holes should be opened no later than 10 AM, once the majority of eggs have been laid. Pop hole closure usually follows the working patterns of the staff in the shed, but can be longer if wished.
You want to make sure that you situate your shed not near a road, or you want it in the middle of the range so that you have a stocking density of, the minimum RSPCA standards are 1 bird per metre squared, but you also want to have all that range accessible within 350 metres of the pop holes. So it's important to get a metre squared per bird, but within 350 metres of the shed. So don't go build the shed in the corner of a field next to a main road. You want it in the middle of the field so that you've got the range all round about and access road in for lorries, cars, etc. So we rotate the ranges here, so like I say, we've got potholes on both sides of the shed, so we try and mix and match it all. Between flocks as well, it's really important for parasites and to keep everything clean. We like to dust the first 20 metres of the range with a bit of lime. It just keeps everything a bit more clean. But when it comes to rotating the range, obviously when the birds are all out this side, it's not so bad in the summer, but in winter months, to stop vegetation getting overgrazed and it becoming too muddy, we want to rotate. So we try and do a week on one side, a week on the other, and rotate. It keeps everything a bit more flexible. It allows the range to recover and stops that overgrazing from the birds coming down. In the summer months, you can sometimes get undergrazing. That's where you need to bring in sheep or cattle or the likes of a lawnmower or something, just to try and keep on top of the range, keep the grass low to encourage the birds out. So it works both ways, but in winter you really have to manage it a lot more. It's easier in the summer. Good drainage is very important, especially in the first area outside the potholes, because that's where all your traffic's going to be. As you get further out, it's always important but not as critical. But good drainage is important. It's important to do testing every 10 to 12 weeks, make sure there isn't a build-up. So that just involves testing the manure of the birds. You can sometimes visually see just when you're looking at the droppings, But if you do think they are getting a bit wet and soggy, it's important to test that and make sure get a worm egg count in the birds, and if so, you apply wormer through the water. Generally they're wormed when they first arrive in the shed, so they're going out to the range quite clean. They're not adding anything to the range as well, and that plays a big part in keeping egg counts low. So when it comes to range use and monitoring range use, it's just a visual assessment. So you're just watching the range every day. If something looks like it's getting overgrazed or trafficked too much, that's where range management comes in. It's not like in other livestock production where we can rotate in the sense that the birds aren't getting that bit of the range of the day, they're going down the far end, because all the access comes from the front. So it's important, what we've done here, we can rotate one half each side. It helps us stop over trafficking and gives the grass a bit of regrowth before we put them back out. But when it comes to monitoring range, it is just a visual inspection. When you're at the shed every day, so you can just see it. You see it from the shed. If we're struggling to get the birds out, you have to look at the range. What factors are they not? Why are they not going further out than just the potholes? In most cases, it will be then security. They maybe don't feel secure out there, so you have to look at your shelters. Are your shelters good enough? Are they close enough? Can we move them, bring them closer to encourage the birds out further? Other factors maybe is the grass getting too long in the range. Again, if there's you talk about overgrazing. If there's undergrazing where the grass is getting too long, that acts as a barrier for the birds themselves. So you want to keep on top of that, whether you either use sheep, cattle, or just even going in with a lawnmower to keep the grass down. It's important. If the birds aren't using it, the grass will become a barrier, especially in summer months when it grows high. So the other kind of factors you're going to look at, obviously weather dependent as well. If the shelters aren't close enough and it's really windy, the birds maybe don't want to go out there because the weather's becoming a problem. That's where usually trees will play a part. If the trees aren't big enough yet, then you have to look at alternative artificial shelters to protect them from the weather elements. Rain doesn't usually bother birds. It will be wind and really cold weather that's probably going to restrict their access. So wind and predators are what's really going to restrict them. So that's what you want to look at. If the birds aren't ranging, maybe look at bringing your shelters a bit closer and encouraging them out, and then start moving your shelters further away as they go. When it comes to biosecurity and range management, it's important to keep records, so anyone visiting the site is signed in and vetted before they enter the site. Foot dipping before you enter the range as well. You have foot dips in place just to keep your wellies, anything bacteria clean off your clothing, suits on as well, so that there's no factors coming in. And all record keeping is important as well. Records are kept and taken weekly for the range management side. So if anything that's either comes to cleaning or birds escaping maybe out with the range, that's all kept, record keeping and vetted on, so that improvements can always be made. So there is cases some days in the year where the weather is just very poor and you have to make a decision whether the birds are going out that day. So when it comes to making these decisions, you're obviously just looking at factors of whether it's very extremely windy, very stormy, just these kind of conditions. If it's just light rain or a bit of rain, that's not sufficient. Birds don't mind rain. It's just in cases of very stormy weather, high impacts of snow. If you are struggling to make the decision, the best thing to then do is you just phone up your local government officer. They'll be able to advise you on, say, yeah, I would leave them in today or not. They would just clarify whether you're making the right decision or wrong decision going forward. And if you are keeping them in, you have to then also notify them to say that our birds will be in today. For whatever reason, in some cases if the weather is fine but you're having to worm them, to prevent them getting drinking outside, you have to worm them inside, so you don't want them all getting the water and inside. So in some cases there'll be a week where they're getting wormed, you have to again tell your local government officer, in our case Joe or Claudia, that the birds are going to be housed for that period.
Thank you for watching Range Management Part 2. For further information on poultry farming, please have a look at the other poultry resources available on the Scottish Farm Advisory Service website, or contact your local Scottish Government poultry officer.